The plague of robocalls is getting worse. Consumers received more than 18 billion in 2017. That's a 75% increase from the year before. They're the #1 consumer complaint to the Federal Communications Commission, which receives more than 200,000 protests a year. Robocalls make up roughly 60% of all complaints to the FCC. Anna Werner's here with the worsening problem and some tips for consumers. Anna, good morning.
Good morning. Well, we all get them. You won a cruise, qualified for lower interest rates, persistent ringing from morning till night. Robocalls are disrupting the lives of millions of Americans with seemingly no end in sight.
I get about 5 or 6 robocalls per week. The area codes are from all over the country.
Carol Burko is one of millions of Americans plagued by robocalls daily.
I have a baby, and I'm always concerned it could be something about the baby.
Those calls can be more than just a nuisance. One study found roughly 25 million Americans lost an estimated $9 billion to phone scams last year. And certain parts of the country are bigger targets than others. A report by UMail found Atlanta was inundated with the most robocalls nationwide, with a whopping 183 million in June alone, followed by 97 million in Dallas, 93 million in Miami, and 88 million in New York. So why do those calls seem impossible to stop? Margot Saunders, senior counsel at the National Consumer Law Center, says the reason is the payoff.
So many industries have discovered how inexpensive they are to make. And these callers have determined that it's much more profitable to call people relentlessly than it is to often comply with the law.
In the past year, the FCC has proposed over $200 million in fines against illegal spoofing by telemarketers. And the Commission adopted new rules allowing phone companies to block calls that are likely to be fraudulent. FCC Chairman Ajit Pai.
We are pursuing every possible avenue because we understand and we agree that this consumer complaint is something that has to be addressed and soon.
But Saunders says she'd like to see the FCC do more, such as mandate phone carriers to implement better technologies for call authentication systems to better combat the problem.
Until that happens, Anna, what do we do to get fewer of these calls?
You know, the sad thing is there's no one fix for this, right? You can take certain actions to help with it. For example, put yourself on the do not call list, right? But that doesn't necessarily, it works for legal businesses, but the scammers, illegal scammers, they don't care. They'll call you anyway, right? So you could download there's a lot of different apps out there. For example, UMail, Nomo Robo, RoboKiller, some of these different apps, which will help to cut back on the calls on your phone. Your phone company may have technologies that will help you. Some caller ID services, for example, where they'll tell you, on my phone, for example, it'll come up and say potential scam, which doesn't completely fix it. You're thinking, well, what if that's not a scam call? What if
that's my mom?
That call? And one other thing, if you do get a call, right, you don't want to pick up, but if you do pick up accidentally, don't say anything and don't press the key. Press 1 to be taken off the list. That's a total scam.
It's so frustrating that we have to do so much extra work to avoid things,
It is.
I barely pick up the phone now. This is just going to keep it on silent.
Right.
I mean, not really, but kind of.
No, we don't have a perfect solution yet.
We don't. Maybe one day. Thank you, Anna. It's always
Anna.
good to get some tips on that front.